The Cosmic Briefing, hosted by award-winning author Dr. Allison Brown, opens the door to disclosure, consciousness, galactic history, and humanity's awakening.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. Super excited that you joined me today. I want to talk about galactic archaeology because there are a lot of people right now who are very interested in the pyramids and the history of the pyramids and what they were used for and how old they are and all of that sort of thing. And it seems to be gaining momentum right now. And if you're one of them, I want to let you know that if you're interested in that type of human history, we really need to be exploring galactic archaeology. And the reason for that is because the human story doesn't start on Earth. It actually starts on Mars. Now, everything that I tell you on this YouTube channel in the Cosmic Briefing is information that we've received from channeling the higher beings through my husband, Will, who's a trans channel. We have written several books on the information that has come through, but like anything, I want you to take whatever resonates, and if it does not resonate, then feel free to move on and find information that works for you and your belief system. So when I tell you this information, it's based on the information that we've received from our guides, all of whom are in the upper dimensions and whom we trust, and we have a long history of communicating with. So when they gave us the information that we channeled and brought forth in our book called The Origin Story, Rediscovering Our Galactic Ancestors, which you can find on Amazon, they explained to us that the galaxy, our universe essentially, was created for the purpose of humanity, for the eventual purpose of humanity. It started out, of course, energetic with what we call the 12, some people call them root races, but they've always talked to us about them as 12 source clusters. Above the 12 source clusters is Source itself, and then those 12 root races or starseed clusters make up Source, essentially. And at that point, they're only energetic. They're not beings. This isn't about an ET creating a human or genetically modifying a human. It's not like that, and that's why I want to describe this to you. So when these 12 starseed clusters began to create our universe, our star systems, our solar systems, all of the planets and all of the things, it began energetically, and it began with frequency. And we know that because even in the Bible it says, let there be light. In the beginning there was light, there was sound, there was frequency. And they explain in the origin story how it was the sound and the frequency that creates matter and physicality. And so as the 12 mingled their energies, and they call it a hybridization, they were hybridizing and mingling their energies into lower and lower dimensions, they were creating other energies and other mixtures, basically, for lack of a better word, or other hybrids of energies. But again, in those dimensions, from the 12th down to the 11th and the 10th and on down, it's still just energetic. At the point at which we reached into the 6th and into the 5th dimension, it became physical. There were physical structures and moons and planets and things like that. And at that point, Mars and Earth existed among the other planets. And it was decided that when they started on the creation of the human project, that it would originate on Mars. And so the Martians were tasked with basically raising human civilization, because the Martians were closest to us physically and lived in communities and understood what it meant to be, what would eventually be a human. And so we started out there. And then you'll hear from the various clusters, the various starseed groups in the origin story that there were, and you've heard this before, that this is out there, this isn't anything new, about galactic wars that have happened. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of years of history of not only our planet, but everything that's out in space and in our universe. So over millions of years, there were, beings that were fighting and warring and all of the sorts of stuff. There was a particular point at which the warring caused the shift in both Mars and Earth simultaneously, such that Mars no longer became habitable and Earth became habitable. Earth at first was this beautiful, which it still is, this beautiful planet full of different forms of life and plants and Earth structures and different things. And we used it sort of as a laboratory. Martians and humans would go to Earth temporarily to do experiments and to explore and to do things like that, but it wasn't habitable at that point. But once Mars was knocked off of its axis, so that it became uninhabitable, Earth became habitable, and they realized that they needed to relocate to Earth, and so that's what happened. And so friends of mine like Brian Corey Dobbs, a filmmaker who wrote a screenplay and a documentary called Blue Planet Red, explores this idea. He provides a lot of evidence for previous life on Mars as well as current life in the form of microbes and so forth that exist on Mars today. And so he has started to help people get out of their silo and come together in order to bring forth this information and collaborate and bring all of this information into people's awareness, because there are lots of people doing lots of investigating and looking at pictures from NASA and all of this sort of stuff. But if they're in a silo, then it's not getting the exposure that it needs. And so Brian is one of those beautiful people who's helping to bring that community together. And so he has written a lot and spoken a lot about the water that they've found, mostly in the form of ice, and the ways that we can show that there was actual civilization on Mars way, way, way back. And so we are going to find more evidence for that. One of the pieces of evidence are the structures that they've been finding. And if you're interested in this, you certainly can look at his work and others on social media, YouTube, and other places, and find something called the face. There's a thing that looks like a face. It's a structure. There are also some other odd structures that look like they were created and not just geological anomalies. There are pyramids that they found on Mars and all sorts of structures like that. And so when we have asked about that in channeling, they have said, yes, indeed, those structures were created for life. And then when life moved to Earth, it was the same thing. This group of beings created the structures on Earth, mimicking the structures on Mars. And this is why we're going to find that a lot of the structures on Mars look like some of the pyramids and things that are on Earth. They were created for that same reason, to create the conditions in which life could exist on Earth, life in the form of humans and animals could live permanently on Earth. So if this is tantalizing, if this is exciting, if it's not, just move on. It's not your topic, that's okay. But if it's exciting to you, there are lots of places that you can start to explore this galactic archaeology piece, because again, it didn't begin in Egypt or with any of the other big pyramids, and it began much longer ago than we've been led to believe. So I'm hoping that this particular video has piqued your interest enough to read the origin story, which you can find on Amazon, or to look up Brian Corey Dobbs' Blue Planet Red, or to look up any of the other Mars researchers and explorers that are putting a lot of information out these days and holding X communities and things like that to talk about all of this fantastic information. And this, again, is part of capital D disclosure. Disclosure is not just about craft and seeing physical extraterrestrial bodies. It's also about humanity's history, big time about humanity's history. And there's a lot of information that's going to be uncovered and revealed. We're in a time of revelation. It's an exciting time to be alive. It's not an accident that you're here, literally on this Earth planet at this time, and on the Cosmic Briefing YouTube channel. So I hope that you'll continue to join me here as we uncover all of these mysteries together. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time.